What's good, everybody? It's your boy, the Divinity Trying to Be Liberty, and we're with it with another episode of Three the Hard Way podcast. I got my partner in crime, Malachi, aka BC Left Hook, with me. What's going on with you, player?
Chilling, fam. Ready for this weekend of fighting and football.
All right, for sure. You got some good topics for y'all. So, with that said, let's get it popping. Our first topic of the week is going to be our reaction to Shador Sanders' performance against the San Francisco 49ers this past Sunday. He had a decent outing, wasn't too bad. What did you think of it as far as his performance? We'll kick some stats and all that for you, but
Um,
he's playing against a better team with the 49ers compared to them playing the Raiders the previous week. So what are your thoughts on his overall performance?
we spoke about our expectations for him on a previous one. I personally I thought he played decent for the situation he's in, and considering he's a rookie and this is only his second start, and this is a much better defense than the Raiders. Um, at the same time, though, as I'm watching this, I'm watching a lot of the media that scrutinized every single thing that Dylan Gabriel did, trying to find a reason that the Browns should start Shador. And I don't think it's not an even playing field in the media. I think Shador's getting a lot of passes that Dylan didn't get. But I do think at this point, Shador might end up being the starter for the rest of the year.
Yeah, he had a decent stat line for that defense. His second start. The thing I was most impressed with, no turnovers, but he's still taking large sacks. Him holding on to the ball, trying to make plays. He actually went 16 for 29, 16 to 25 for 149 yards with a touchy. No interceptions, no fumbles, which is a good thing compared to his first week against the 49ers and against the Raiders and a better defense this week. So I was impressed with that. It was a solid stat line. Um, a lot more accurate than his first game. So I'll give him that. Uh I won't say he's getting passes. He's still making some. The weather was a little bit inclement. I guess that might be one of the passes people are giving him. With the win they had last week. But um, he was still able to get some deep balls down there. It was a decent game from him. I think he did enough to maintain the starting job. I know that much. Um, so I guess we'll have
So
to see.
he's been that much more impressive to you than Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah, just because he could push the ball downfield more. I think he
But I
did
think they're
he
scoring more
did do.
points under Dylan.
Yeah, but like I said, this was against the 49ers. Like I'm not gonna hold that against him his second
I
game.
feel you. I
Um,
was much more impressed with this touchdown than he got this week than last week because
because it was
his
a
first
screen
touchdown
pass
was
or just a
yeah
screen pass. Yeah, but
yeah
you remember he did have that long bomb that if the dude can maintain his balance, that's a 50+ yard touchdown. That's not
yeah.
really as bad either. Um, I think he did do a little bit more dinking and dunking this week because of the weather conditions. So I think we'll probably have to wait and see. Let's see who they got coming up this week on their schedule. They're playing, I believe, the Titans, which I think that's an interesting battle because it's going against the number one pick in Cam Ward, who he was actually compared to in the draft, and a lot of the mock drafts had him going 1 and 2 with Cam Ward prior to the whole draft ordeal with him slipping to the fifth round. So that's going to be an interesting matchup. He should be able to put up a better performance against that team. They're pretty trash. Um, what do you think?
Yeah. Again, I- I'm not expecting like him to go out there and throw for 350 and 3 4 touchdowns. I'm expecting something to go out there similar to what we saw last week, maybe some improvement, but not much.
Yeah, I just want to make sure he's containing consistency as far as he's got to cut back on those long sacks. 3 sacks for 34 yards lost last week. That's a drive killer. Um,
That
field position
that's who he
killers.
is, though. With along with he does have a much better deep ball than Dylan, and he's much more willing to throw it. But with him also comes even go you go back to college, he takes a lot of sacks.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I don't know if you saw there was an altercation between him and Jerry Judy. I know that's been a big thing in the media this week because he sailed the ball in the wind, and I kind of had mixed feelings about it. I'm not sure if you got a whiff of that though, as far as what was
Yeah,
going
I
on
thought
with it.
Judy could have laid out for it a little bit. I
Yeah,
like,
yeah. So we're in agreement there.
yeah.
I don't think Judy sold out for that.
I think personally, I think he wants Dylan. I don't think he likes you.
Yeah,
There's some things there.
that interaction was a whole lot different than anything we've seen with Gabriel. Um, so yeah, you might be onto something there, but apparently they seem to hatch it out and everything is cool from what Judy said. They talked it out afterwards, but it was a big
Well,
riff about as far as him
even
and
going back to the
Emmanuel.
Raiders though, if you go back to the Raiders game when Shador missed some passes, he threw his hands up a few times, shook his head. There was some things that he did that he didn't do with Dylan that I noticed. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, shit, I wouldn't be, I'd be reluctant to go back to him after he did that little tap dance and got a fucking fumble on a large play. I wouldn't necessarily have a lot of confidence, or I'd be pissed about that too. I don't know if I would carry it
I
over
feel you.
into another week, but that definitely was a drive killer, even though they won the game. But with that said, I think this game against the Titans, I think he should be improved. I'm expecting maybe 200, one or two touchdowns, and like I said, just as far as he's not turning the ball over, um, that's what I want to see. No turnovers and try to. If you're gonna take a sack, make sure you're not losing fucking 10 yards at a clip on them. That's fucking
Yeah.
ridiculous, man. Um, that was a lot of yardage lost on 3 sacks. So I mean, step in the pocket if you're gonna take the sack. Don't fucking go backwards on it. So that's my expectation as far as him for the week. You got anything else you want to go over as far as his performance? Like, if you had to
No,
give it a grade, if you had to give it a grade, what would you give it?
his last one, I would actually give it a C, which is good for being a second starter.
Yeah, so I mean, I'd probably be borderline B minus C too. So we're definitely on the same page with that one. Um, we'll go on to the next topic though, and this one is gonna be a hot one because it's a lot of weirdness going on, man. We got the latest college football rankings, and it's a mess. And the crazy thing, the committee supposed said it was going to get better with the teams expanding. They find a way to get it wrong, and I'm only going to imagine what's going to happen when they expand to 16 in a couple years. It's not going to get any better. It's going to get even more confusing. Um, but yeah, let's go through. I guess the rankings right now. Shit, number one we got Ohio State. Number two, Indiana still. Number three, Georgia. Number four, Texas Tech. Number five, Oregon. Number six, Ole Miss. That's a whole nother situation right there. Uh, with Lane Kiffin leaving, but that might be another topic for another day, unless we decide to touch on it now. Number seven, Texas A&M. Number eight, we got Oklahoma, your Sooners. Number nine, Roll Tide, Alabama. Number 10, Notre Dame. And we got the conference teams playing for pretty much 11 and 12 right now.
Well, the
So
ACC,
the ACC is tomorrow, I think.
yeah,
Duke versus Virginia. Now is the winner of that going to be the outright
automatic,
winner?
automatic. So if Duke
No, because
wins,
they were talking about Miami all this damn time. Like they're still talking about him now in the media. So I'm like,
well, they were the highest ranked ACC team, but the problem is going to become not when either Duke or Virginia wins the ACC. Miami's going to fall into the same tier as Notre Dame. They beat Notre Dame, but Notre Dame's looked they have looked better than Miami lately. But again, that head to head early, you gotta take that over anything else.
so do you think it's a possibility we get two ACC teams in there? The conference
Yeah,
championship winner and Miami.
I do. I think that it's inevitable that the way that they've been keeping Miami ranked so high and they keep projecting them in the playoffs this whole time. I have a feeling that the committee, I think they like Miami.
I have a problem with you not making your conference championship, especially if you're in a weaker conference. To me, I know even with the big win over Notre Dame early in the year, they've had some real funky losses. Um,
Grief.
I mean, I have a hard time putting either them and Notre Dame in there, honestly. And I
I
know
do.
Notre Dame,
I'm right there with you.
and I know Notre Dame has probably the higher quality losses as far as well, shit, I wouldn't call Miami a high quality loss at this point, but Texas A&M, still a top five team. So I mean, the thing with me, like I can't, you can't keep rewarding Notre Dame for this non-conference shit. They need to get in the conference, man. Like that's one of the unfair things, and like I said, rewarding teams that are either not in a conference or not making their conference championships, because there's a actual contention that Alabama, even if they lose tomorrow to Georgia, they'll be out. And I'm like, how do you do that? Like we had one of the
I,
toughest strength of schedules. We made our conference championship. We beat Georgia in the head-to-head during the regular season. So I'm like, how do you exclude them in any way possible? And it's like you're punishing teams for making their conference championship.
well, from what I understand, what I've listened to what the committee said is that they're not going to hold that against a team that makes their conference championship.
Yeah, I think that's open to interpretation, man. I think they kind of go as they come as they go. Like they'll
I
excuse
agree with you there
interpretation.
too.
Man, like they find a way to get it wrong every year, man. Um,
Unfortunately, because we want to give everybody a chance, right? And we're a people that just love the underdog story. We're just giving a participation spot to the G5. Like tonight, it's either going to be Tulane or North Texas. They're going to get slaughtered.
and we don't need to see that again. I mean, we saw it last season.
They're going to
Um,
get slaughtered.
and they had to do it for for anti-class suits, so they can't
Mhm.
exclude them, unfortunately. But I'm like, nobody wants to see that. Nobody needs to see it, and it's kind of
And
unfair
somebody's
that.
going to get beat. And then what if this happens? This is a nightmare scenario. If Duke, a 7-5 team who somehow, because of these funky tiebreakers in the ACC, ended up in the ACC championship, upsets Virginia, then we're gonna have a 7-5 football team, or 8-5 at that point in the playoffs.
And then you got the other G5 team with the winner of North Texas and Tulane. Uh, two teams that don't need to be invited to the dance, man. I think they should have, honestly eliminate those weak conferences until the 16 team playoff is implemented. To me, that would be ideal because at
I
least you
think
could
it
put in
should
that
be
bottom
a year
seeds.
by year thing. Like, because not every year do you get a G5 team that can compete with the big boys. It's not realistic. Every once in a while you'll get like a Boise State, a TCU when they played in the G5, and they'll come up and yeah, they're good enough to play with the big boys, and you can recognize that. Everybody in the country recognizes that neither North Texas or Tulane belong in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I mean another thing I'm not too, the Big Ten was kind of crappy this year, and they got the top two seeds right now, just because their conference was whack and they were able to roll through them. Um, I guess what you got: Ohio State, Indy, and Oregon.
Yeah, Indiana and Ohio State are going to meet each other. Oregon, like I don't understand the hype with Oregon. They played a low ranked USC team and beat them. They lost to Indiana, and the only other team that was ranked on kickoff was Penn State.
And
Who
we
have
know,
they
yeah,
beat?
we know that program is in shambles right now. Um, so let's bring up this interesting, I guess, spin on things. Of course, we have Ole Miss ranked at number five. Um, they didn't make their conference championship. Make the conference championship. They're rated ahead of a team that did make the conference championship, and they just lost their head coach and about four or five, well, about nine personnel from their staff. from their coaching staff when Lane Kiffin was hired by LSU over the past week. Um, what do you think about that situation, man? Like that, I was hearing that it can play a factor. Um, but what do you think? I mean, they don't have a game this week, so technically you have no
Yeah,
reason to kick them out. But like that's really going to impact their performance. Like they
they're, they're
lost their
they're
offensive
definitely a playoff
coordinator. They lost their offensive coordinator, their head coach. Like they
team.
lost a lot of major people as far as their coaching staff. And I'm like, it's going to make their game probably a little less competitive. But do you still think they should be in it even with that just happened?
Yeah, dude. You can't punish the players because the players are still the same. The team's still there. The coaches are gone. How they're going to perform, I don't know. But I thought the OC they gave him permission to finish the playoffs.
No, no, that all of them left the same day that Kiffin left. They were on that private plane with him getting booed. Um, they gone, man, and I'm like, it's at least five from that staff, from what I was reading.
That's unfortunate because
On
Ole
that
Miss is
staff.
one of the teams that legitimately had a chance to win that championship. They still
Yeah,
do. We got to see how they perform. You know what I mean?
yeah. I think that's good. There's gonna be an upset in the apple cart as far as what they're. I think they're playing the. They would be playing the 12 seed if I'm not mistaken.
Well, that would be Tulane.
That they be playing. Yeah, they be playing. Okay, so they could show. Okay, so they could still technically. Yeah, they'll be playing the number 11 seed.
we,
Um,
we, we should get to at least see like one. I think that it's going to be hard to judge exactly who they are. I know who they were, and they got the same personnel. It's just going to be is it are the coaches going to be able to make the correct calls in the key moments, right?
yeah.
So we're gonna at first game we'll get to see like okay what would the because I had expectations of them to win maybe win the national championship because they're the only team in 2 years to score 30 points on OU.
Okay. Yeah. And yeah, like you said, they'd be playing probably the winner of Tulane North Texas. Um, so they should be able to get past that game at least. Hold on,
Yeah.
real shit. 1 second.
I think that there's an argument that a 9-3 Texas team belongs in the playoffs over a 10-2 Notre Dame team. This ten
Yeah,
and two Notre Dame team has no wins of substance. I'm sorry. And then I look at
just the
Texas.
USC game. Just the USC
Yeah.
game.
And then I look at Texas. They beat three teams in the top 10.
Yeah. And they're probably on the outside. They're probably not going to get in unless they decide to kick Bama out if they lose. And I've been hearing depending on the way they lose, which I mean, I'm a Bama fan, but it's almost a foregone conclusion that we're probably gonna lose. We got a gang of injuries right now. Um,
I think Texas deserves the playoff spot over Miami and Notre Dame. That's the thing. I'm not like Miami lost to unranked teams. Who they've beat. They beat how did Pittsburgh ever get ranked? I'm sorry. How did they get? How did they get ranked? Like okay, you beat a ranked Pittsburgh team, beat the brakes off of them. They should have never been ranked.
yeah,
So
but
who?
Texas lost to Florida, the one that's a
They lost. That's bad. And then the 25-point loss to Georgia.
yeah. Um, with that said, let's go to our predictions for tomorrow's conference championship games, and we'll start with the big one, man. Georgia versus Alabama. How do you see that one going?
I think Georgia finally gets that Alabama monkey off their back and says okay, and I think they finally get him.
Now, do you see it being a blowout considering the injuries to the tide
Well,
right now? Like we just had.
it's never a blowout with these two teams. So no, I don't. I think it'll be another close game.
You know what I hate is that the neutral field is still fucking Georgia. They gotta move that shit, man.
Yeah,
They can't. They can't. You know, it's home field for them every damn time. So they gotta move that shit, man. Maybe the Metrodome or something like that, unless it's LSU playing. Like, but they need to make a real neutral site because Atlanta is not it.
yeah. That's like having to
um.
play them in the Super Bowl. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
y'all did, and you beat them.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. So, my heart is of course with the Tide, but I mean, like I said, with our injuries right now, Ty Simpson's been playing shitty as hell as recently. Ryan Williams, a terrible, terrible sophomore season. I'm just not confident. Um, we barely got past the Iron Bowl against Auburn, and that was due to an unsung hero. So, like, our key players aren't stepping up that we need. Our running game with Jan Miller, he's not. I don't think he's playing. So, I mean, it's pretty much going to be a game of Nets man up. And if we could pull it off, that should be even more reason for us to. I think we should probably jump into the top five. Um, at least that's what I would think. But
You think? Wait, if you beat Georgia, you think you should jump to the top five
hell yeah, yeah.
over? Wait, wait, over teams that beat you.
Considering the conditions, yeah,
Really?
yeah, I would. Yeah, Georgia's
I don't
the
see.
number three team.
How do you jump OU when OU beat you? I think OU
Uh,
would then have to jump up.
SEC conference champion though. Like that's a big deal. Like I'd have to give some credence to that to even jump for them to jump OU, yeah. Because OU stuck at number
That
8.
might be a good reason for them to jump OU, even though OU beat them.
I
You know
mean,
what I mean?
at least you got to put them at like number. I want to say ahead of Texas A&M, and I you basically you got Texas A&M playing Notre Dame again if the playoffs were to start tomorrow. So
Yeah.
I'm like, like you got to do something about that. I
I
think
really,
teams should
yeah.
be rewarded for, like I said, I'm not up for these teams being rewarded for not making their conference championship, and I don't want to see teams punished that did, especially when it comes to the SEC. Like we
Mm,
know it's a grit dog
it's a grind.
fight. Yeah, every week. There is no let up weeks. Even with there's
Yeah,
just
with
no
the
let up weeks.
even with the
And
so-called bad teams, you see that in the bowl games when bad teams win. You know what I mean? Mid teams from the other conferences.
all right, so let's go on to the next one, the next biggest one, which would be the Big Ten. Actually, the top two ranked teams in the nation are in the BCS poll: Ohio State and Indiana. Um, this could be a big deal for Fernando. The starting quarterback for Indiana, who's hoping to get his Heisman. Like he needs this one. If he wants to seal, he needs a victory like this because the Big Ten has been crap this year. Um, how do you see this one going, man?
I I really think Ohio State's going to destroy them, but I have questions with Ohio State too. Like I really don't know how good they are. I
Uh,
watch. I really don't. Who have they beat? They beat Texas week one. I know that.
I mean, Ohio State has had some close calls this year too, man.
Yeah. So I'm like, who they beat, and it's not their fault. You can only beat who's on your schedule. So I do have questions about them. I have major questions about Indiana. They look really good with that. They're able to run the ball, and that passing game is ridiculous. That makes them absolutely dangerous. But is that going to transfer over to some of these defenses that they're going to have to see from these other conferences?
Yeah, yeah. And they got Matt Patricia running the defense at Ohio State, which he's solid NFL background. Um, yeah, I would probably say Indiana would lose this one. They had a close game against Old Dominion earlier in the season, barely beat Penn State, which was without a head. They were playing with a first week interim head coach at the time.
Yeah.
Um, uh, I don't know, man. This is gonna really see what they got a high-powered offense. They're really gonna get to see what it's like. Um,
Yeah,
and
I mean, because
they could go
like,
a long way in impressing me, man.
yeah, because they beat Illinois when Illinois is ranked, but that doesn't impress me. They haven't really beat anybody but Oregon.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, so I think I'm probably gonna pick Indiana. I mean, I'm gonna pick Ohio State in that one too. They just have too much firepower as far as their wide receiver tandem or wide receiver corps. They actually just lost their wide receivers coach. I can't think of Brian Hartline. He just got picked up as a USF coach, so they're gonna be without him. It's going to be interesting to see what happens to that program without him because he's been good as their wide receiver offensive coordinator. Especially with the wide receiver talent they've had the last couple of years that have gone on to the
Yeah,
NFL. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens to their program with him gone and how they react to that. Going into this championship and into the college playoffs. Um, I guess the next one would be what the Big 12 championship with BYU and Texas Tech. Pretty
that's a
big game right
rematch.
there. That's a pretty big
Yeah,
game.
yeah. Texas Tech beat them early in the season. That's BYU's only loss, I believe, and I don't remember who beat Texas Tech off the top of my head. Uh,
Yeah.
the Big 12 to me, the only team I see that can really compete in the playoffs is Texas Tech. So their only hope is Texas Tech to win home tomorrow.
Okay, and Texas Tech lost to Arizona State, who's actually
Yeah,
had a solid program the last couple years.
yeah,
Even though
they made it to the
they were unranked,
semifinals.
yeah, I mean even though they were unranked this year, but they put up some good teams the last couple seasons. So I
Yeah,
mean that's not necessarily a bad loss to me. I think Texas Tech should pull this one out.
yeah. Because honestly, looking at the Big 12, the only team I see that can compete with the other conferences is Texas Tech. So they
Yeah.
need Texas Tech to win.
So let's say BYU does pull off the win, even though they lost to them earlier in the season. Um, how do you think that's going to shape the playoffs? Like,
That's a good question.
does that kick Texas Tech out? Because they'll be a two-loss team, but they made their
Most
conference
likely,
championship. Okay.
most likely, even though I still would think that they deserve a spot over Notre Dame and probably Miami. The way that they've kept Miami like just ranked and kept projecting them in the playoffs just tells me that the committee likes Miami.
I have no idea why, man. It
I
makes no
don't either.
sense. But I mean, honestly, I don't think Notre Dame or Miami needs to sniff the playoffs. Neither team. Um, so the committee would be doing a good job to leave both of their asses out. Um, then we
Yeah, I would
got
take a 10-2 Texas Tech over both of them, especially since they made the conference championship.
yeah, yeah. And like I said, the Notre Dame, they can't keep getting away with this shit. They better start scheduling some tougher games during the year. Um, Miami, nobody was expecting them to have, pull off what they did the first game of the season with Notre Dame being a runner up last year. And, Texas A&M was probably a surprise as well for a lot of people. But, uh, yeah, they got to do good to get
How
that
confident are
schedule.
you that they're going to do good in the playoffs? Because I'm going to be real with you. I think they're hype. Like they played all the bad teams except Texas in the SEC. Did you see their schedule? They played all the bad teams. So did Texas, but at the end of the day, they played Georgia at least. But A&M, I don't know how good. I'm not sold on them, bro.
What, because of the loss to Texas or?
It's not just that; it's just that they played all the bad teams in the SEC.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, one side is more I guess dangerous than the other, but like I said,
And
I
if
think
and
Georgia.
that kid will turn the ball over too.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, so I don't. Texas A&M. There was a lot of people arguing that for them at one point that
Yeah,
they should
I
be number
definitely like to
one.
see
I
I would like to see
never got
Texas
that.
Tech in there.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, just because they were blowing everybody out at a time, and of course the Notre Dame victory earlier on in the season was carrying them for a while.
Dude, they hyped that
Um,
victory up.
yeah. Let's go on to the ACC championship, which will be a 7-5 Duke team against number 17 ranked Virginia. Um, of course, I have Virginia pulling this one off. Um, where do you stand on this one?
Yeah, I got Virginia, but it's the nightmare scenario for the committee is if Duke would win. I almost hope they do just for the chaos. Only I would be
Just to
afraid we
shake it
wouldn't
up,
make it.
yeah. Just to shake it up a little bit. All right. So now we went through our championship games for the weekend. Let's get into some boxing, man. Uh, we had a interesting week of news. Beef in between the WBC and Terrence Crawford. Mauricio Suleiman went off on a ramp saying he wanted an apology from Terrence Crawford for not paying their sanctioning fees for his fight against Canelo. And this isn't the first time that Terrence Crawford has done this. So I'm just putting that out there. He's done this with other organizations at other weights. Um, Supposedly there was a 300K sanctioning fee for that fight with Canelo. Terrence Crawford, of course, refused to pay it. Oscar De La Hoya even chimed on it after Terrence Crawford went on a rant against Mauricio Suleiman, pretty much telling them to fuck off. Like, I'm not giving you an apology or nothing. Like, who you think you are? He definitely went off on him, and then Oscar chimed in saying, "Of course, you need to be more respectful and professional. You know, these are the guys that gave you a chance." I have my opinions on it, but what are your thoughts as far as the sanctioning bodies, man? Like 300K is a lot of money, and you
That's
know when
ridiculous.
you yeah, when you go for these undisputed and unified titles, like you're paying every organization.
Mhm.
Um, so
That is
Terrence
the
Crawford,
downside of being undisputed.
and that's why people don't go. That's why boxers don't go after it because of that kind of stuff. And Terrence Crawford said he was able to negotiate a deal with the other three bodies as far as the amount, and Jose Suleiman had the outlandish 300,000 amount. I don't care how much you get paid. If he made 50 million, which is being disputed, nobody knows what his check was for that fight. It's been up in the air, debatable. Um, $300,000 to one organization, and then you got to pay three other ones more than 100 grand. That, you're losing pretty much a half a mil or more just to be a champion. Call yourself a champion. Which is, that's been going on as far as saying, it goes back to Floyd saying there's too many belts and all
Way too
that.
many belts. It just shows you the greed of the organizations, in my opinion.
I
They
mean,
know
my,
the
my
fans. They know the fans want an undisputed champion. We want one guy at every weight class, right? That would be the best thing for boxing, in my opinion. They only have one fucking champ, maybe two, but whatever, right? But when you're making these guys pay all this money, they have no reason to go snatch up all the belts.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it was what a 10. Well, I guess they had settled on 300, but it's usually like 10%. Like that's ridiculous. They still got trainers and agents and stuff like that to pay for. After camp. After camps. And those camps are 8 to 10 weeks long, man. Guys going without money for that long. Till fight night check clears. So this is my stance on it, man. There's been some talk or notion about the ring title needs to be the only title that's fought for. But I mean that shit is just as corrupt as the Nets. And it's not even an organization that you had to pay into or pay fees for their belt. But their rankings are just as fucking brutal. We're seeing it now with the 154-pound weight class with Virgil Ortiz, who's never won a damn title, being their number one ranked guy over guys like Fundora, who's actually had been a unit was actually unified titleist. Like I have a problem with the Ring magazine
Right?
rankings.
Yeah, I thought Golden. I didn't think they owned the ring anymore.
Nah, that's Turkey owns it now.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I'm saying. I was making a joke. I was like, I didn't think they owned it anymore. That's why you said like,
Yeah, so I'm just like, it's But that's ridiculous, man. So I'm like, that's why you can't really use the ring. So I'm like, it's kind of needed to have these different belts because that's the only way to get these things really moving as far as getting a real head to head for who's number one. You know, nobody knew who was number one at 147 until Errol started getting belts one by one, and Terrence had his. That was the way to determine who were the top two. And I mean, you pretty much got a whole round robin effect to where you'd have to pretty much have Super Six tourneys in every division if you really wanted to have a ring championship, a one belt solution. So I mean, this system has been around so long that I don't think you really can break from it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate when the guy because unfortunately when they do go snatch up all the belts, we see this is an example of what happens, and he's not the only one. We've seen other undisputed champions drop belts
Yeah,
because they
they
just
all
don't
dropped
want to pay
belts.
the distinction.
Usyk, Bivol, they've all recently dropped belts. All. I don't know if it's whether to avoid certain fights, but it just brings a whole lot of you got this mandatory to fulfill, this mandatory to fulfill, and as opposed to a voluntary that can make you a whole lot more money, which is why I think Usyk dropped his belt. Because he's in talks to possibly fight Wilder, which would probably be a bigger money fight for him than fighting Fabricio Wardley. Nobody knows. Um, so I mean, yeah, they definitely gotta clean up this somehow. Something has to be done better, but there's a reason why these guys are going trying to unify or go undisputed because it just comes with too many obligations, the sanctioning body fees plus the BS mandatories. You got anything you want to add on that one, Malachi?
Nah, I agree with everything. I agree with you 100%. And unfortunately, it's not going to change, but well, we sure
All
wish it
right.
would.
So let's get into our fight predictions for the weekend. It was supposed to be three title fights. It's been marred by PED test results from Janabek. So the Eris Landy Lauer fight is no longer against Janabek, so we don't really need to go into that one. We'll talk about two other fights which are crazy. So we had Stephen Coolboy Fulton versus Oshaki Foster. It was supposed to be for Oshaki Foster's 130-pound WBC title. Fulton came in overweight by 2 pounds at the weigh-in today. Um, that title's not for grabs anymore. It's going to remain with Oshaki, win or loss. It is now for the 135-pound WBC interim title, which will put them in place to fight Shakur Stevenson, who's the current WBC champion at 135, even though he's moving up to 140 to fight Tiafimo. So eventually they're going to be bumped up to the full champion, whoever wins this fight. With that said, I know you're a big Cool Boy fan. Both of us are. Um, but this is actually a good fight. Um, Shaki can get down, man. What are your thoughts on this one?
First, I was wondering if the 2 pounds, because did he even try to lose it?
Well, he tried. He had two weight tries. I was hearing it was actually three, which I don't believe.
Hmm.
But he, yeah, he had two attempts and didn't come down.
Do you think that was that they knew that if they didn't make weight, that they would probably then move this fight over to for that interim
No,
title belt?
I don't think he
No.
had any idea. I don't think so. I mean, that would have to be some deep PBC, Suleiman, the background discussion type stuff. I don't think
Because
he had any
I just
idea.
what are they? I don't know that I've ever seen where a guy missed weight, was fighting for one title,
And then they
and they
moved
said,
up
"Oh,
to
you
another
missed weight.
weight.
We're going to move it up to another weight."
Yeah,
Yeah,
people are going crazy over that one, especially
that's
with the
why I was
first
like, "Do
fight.
you think it was on purpose?" Because like,
I mean, what's crazy is Schoolboy. I mean, Coolboy's coming up from 126, so you would expect Shaki to be the one
yeah,
that's struggling. So it makes no damn sense, man. I don't know what the hell Fulton had going on in camp, but a lot of people are saying he likes discipline and they're expecting him to lose based off of that not coming in on weight. Um, course, I think skills pay the bills. Cool Boy is a lot more technical, is a lot more fundamentally sound than Oshaki. Um, Oshaki could lull you to death in fights. Um, so I'm going with Cool Boy. Oshaki's definitely got some skills though, man. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. But I think Cool Boy, he's just the more sound fighter, better technically. And I was thinking the size difference would be a whole lot more than it was. I think Oshaki has the reach.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they actually look similar in size. Like it wasn't as big of a difference as I thought. Most of Oshaki's height is in his forehead. So, but yeah, I got Cool Boy winning by UD. Um, he'll be, I guess, a three. I don't know. I don't count interim champions as titles, but like I said, the winner of this fight is ultimately going to become the 135-pound full champion because of Shakur's fighting Tiafimo in January. Um, the main event for the night is the 140-pound championship between Isaac Pitbull Cruz and Lamont Roach Jr. Interested matchup. Lamont Roach, his debut at 140. Uh, he actually looked good at the weigh-in, like he filled in well for the weight, and is bigger than everybody's bigger than Pitbull in height. So,
Mhm.
um, predictions for that fight.
I think it's going to be exciting because Pitbull's going to bring the action. He always does. Um, Roach, I believe his last fight that we saw was him in Tank, right? Was that Roach's last fight?
That was his last fight against
So
Tank.
he's coming off. He's coming off a very impressive performance. A lot of people thought he won that fight. Um, I, I think Cruz's pressure is going to get to him in the end.
Do you see him standing in there and trying to trade with Cruz, or do you
I think
think
he's
he's
going to try
gonna
to
try to?
box him,
Okay, because I mean,
but
Rayo
he's
Valenzuela was able
relentless.
to use the Rayo
Yeah,
Valenzuela was able to use the ring, and of course he's what 5'9", 5'10", with he's extremely huge, large or long for the weight class. But like I said, Lamont Roach short, a little bit shorter, closer to Pitbull size. Um, but he's athletic and can move if he wants to. So I don't know. I think he needs the box, but he's been letting off that he's gonna try and exchange at times with him, which I think you have to get his respect. But
yeah,
Roach hasn't necessarily been a power puncher through his career, and I don't see him becoming one at 140. And like I said, Cruz has been up in there against Rolly Romero, who was probably one of the biggest punchers at 140 at that time, and he stood toe to toe and brought the fight to him, knocked him out.
yeah,
Um, that pressure is going to be relentless, man. Um, and the only thing that I've seen, only time I've seen Cruz struggle was a guy that could bring it back, bring that kind of pressure or output back against him, and that
yeah,
was in his most recent fight. But that's not Lamont Roach's style. So it's an interesting mix of styles. Um, I guess I got to favor Cruz, though. I think the pressure's gonna be overwhelming. It's going to get, the brawl tactics is going to get ugly in there. And hopefully
yeah,
Lamont Roach is ready for that. If Lamont Roach is ready for that, you know, we talked a bit cool about this a while ago when the fight was first announced. And, he thought Lamont Roach was good enough to do some small things like turn him and shit like
Mhm.
that. But I'm like, Rayo was only able to do it because he's so tall and lengthy. And I don't think Roach has that same advantage as Rayo Valenzuela. He probably
Yeah. And
has the feet.
if he's planning to stand and plant and throw punches with him, it might not go the way he wants.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the physicality of the fight is going to determine it for me. If it's a real
Yeah,
physical fight early on, I'm like, yeah, it should be an easy. I won't say easy night for Cruz, but definitely a victory for him. So I'm favoring Cruz in this one.
yeah, I'm taking Cruz as well.
All right. With that said, those are all of our topics for the week.
Ooh,
We'll
yeah.
be back with you. Yeah, we'll be back with y'all next week with some reviews of the fights and I guess some more Shador Sander news and whatever else pops up in the meantime. With that said, we're out.
I yeah, one.